articulate, perceptive, and knowledgeable. No one who talked with these executives for even a few minutes could fail to be impressed with their intelligence. Does anyone really think that former Rubbermaid CEO Wolfgang Schmidt, who was known as an innovative genius and had a knack for knowing the right answers before most people even recognized the critical issues, is lacking in raw intelligence or talent? Does anyone really think that Wang Labs founder An Wang, who carried a PhD from an Ivy League university, owned several patents in his own name, and created a billion-dollar company, was lacking in raw intelligence or talent? Nearly all of these people reached the top because executives and shrewd investors repeatedly chose them over their fellow managers for being the most able and most competent. Many of them graduated from the world's most selective and demanding schools. In the earlier stages of their careers, they were the managers who turned crises into triumphs. Once they got to the top, they were often able to hang on to their positions long enough to shape the fate of their enterprises, because corporate boards and business partners were utterly confident of these executives' ability to make truly intelligent decisions. Nobody wants to entrust the fate of a large corporation to somebody who isn't very, very smart, so as a rule, they don't. Despite these executives' general intelligence, could the major business failures nevertheless be due to ignorance of the industry or a lack of relevant knowledge or experience? This possibility isn't very plausible either. The people responsible for major business disasters almost always have terrific track records in their relevant areas of business. They tend to be enormously knowledgeable about everything that seems likely to affect their company. If they come upon something they don't know, they generally make a point of catching up right away. These people are usually recognized as the top authorities on whatever type of business they are in. In sum, managers are far from stupid. We cannot understand corporate failure by resorting to the cop-out excuse of poor managerial quality. No, we'll need to look elsewhere for an explanation. 2. The executives couldn't have known what was coming. The second most common way of explaining business disasters is to acknowledge that while the executives were intelligent, they were caught by events they couldn't have foreseen. Even the best executives might be expected to fail when business conditions suddenly shift in unpredictable ways. The only problem with this explanation is that none of the business disasters we investigated turned out to be due to executives being caught by unforeseeable events. In company after company, regardless of industry, time period, or even country, the managers had every opportunity to see the important changes that were coming to their industry. In most cases, the executives possessed all the necessary facts. In many cases, people tried to tell them what these facts meant. Executives at the Schwinn Bicycle Company knew all about mountain bikes and the other new designs that would threaten their brand. They had even received presentations on these designs and turned them down. Motorola knew all about the digital cell phones that would cut into its analog sales. Motorola was collecting royalties on them. When the Internet changed the PDA market that General Magic was going after, it was a development that some of General Magic's own people had predicted. In each of these cases and many others, the relevant change in business conditions was foreseen and discussed, and then disregarded. 3. It was a failure to execute. Recently, it has become fashionable to claim that the executives of failed companies probably had the right policies, but that their companies didn't carry out the policies well enough. If the managers and employees at all levels had only done their jobs better and not messed up the details, everything would have been fine. This certainly sounds like an appealing explanation. It implies that the senior managers got the big things right and only slipped up on the little ones. It suggests that a few improvements in execution are all that would be necessary to put everything right again. Yet attributing business failures to a failure to execute is a bit like attributing business bankruptcies to insufficient money. Every business failure can be described as a failure to execute because the business ultimately failed to do what it set out to do, create value for its employees.